Hi, my name is Steve Ann Smith, and I am your host for My Little Podcast. My Little Podcast is an interview-based podcast that explores the world of creatives through intimate and thoughtful conversations that seek to inspire and spark discovery through artistic curiosity. This show is for the community of artists, musicians, podcasters, journalists, authors, and content creators that find their purpose through art. We are all interconnected by our love for things we see beyond ourselves. This is my way of sharing our gifts with a larger audience in hopes of contributing to a future that sees life through joy, celebration, and prosperity. Allow us to share your story. Subscribe to My Little Podcast wherever you enjoy podcast listening. Welcome to Hip Hop Now Podcast. If you're from the future, you know what to do. Get your ass out of here. Don't disrespect the legend. Hip hop is here to stay. Let's get right into the business.
What up, y'all? I'm your host, Vegas, and this is Hip Hop Now Podcast, a podcast designed specifically to keep you caught up on all things hip hop, music, and culture throughout the week. Big shout out to the producers of this podcast over at patreon.com/hiphopnow, where you can get bonus material, insights into the things I'm working on, and input into the program, the production, everything you want to say about this show from week to week. I do listen. I have implemented those things. The video version is a result of that. First and foremost, before we even get started, I'd like to say that today is De La Soul Day, or De La Day. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means today, officially, if you're from the future, it already happened. Get your ass out of here. But nevertheless, that means that today, March 4th, is that the date? Yeah, March 3rd. My bad. I'm jumping the gun. March 3rd, 2023. De La Soul's entire catalog of music is now available on all digital streaming platforms. What does that mean to a person who owns all of De La Soul's music? Well, if you look at the brief history of De La Soul's struggle with Tommy Boy Records and their catalog of music and streaming and what they were going to get paid, it was a long fight. They went through a lot to get to this point where it could be released, and hip hop, 50 years of hip hop, is celebrating De La Soul, especially not only because they deserve their flowers from the Daisy Age, but because they are one of the most important hip hop groups of all time. True hip hop from day one, never compromised their sound, lyrical integrity, stayed in their lane, in their pocket, and ironically stayed pretty popular amongst music fans. And recently we lost Dave, aka Trugoy the Dove. Before any of this can happen, and how does this benefit them? Well, again, they worked so hard to get to this point. It's a culmination, a celebration of their careers. So go out and stream their catalog. If you've never heard any of their albums, maybe you've heard a song or two, I would suggest, if you're not that familiar with De La Soul beyond a couple of songs, every streaming platform has official playlists of some sort that can kind of wean you into their music over the course of, decades. And through that, you can go and discover the albums based off of the music that you hear that you like. But when I tell you it's a variety of true blue hip hop from day one, it is. They're worth it, and it's worth your time. Stream De La Soul. Happy De La Day. Big shout out to hiphopdx.com, allhiphop.com, djbooth.net, and a couple of places where I'm getting some of these stories from. Melly Mel said recently on the Art of Dialogue video interview platform on YouTube, I'm going to read it for y'all slowly. Tupac is a greater rapper than Biggie and Jay-Z. And at first, when I read the headline, I'm like, here we go. Here we go. Here's another Keith Murray situation. Here's another Big Gibb situation. Here we go. Saying too much, critiquing too many rappers, when honestly, you're Melly Mel. We just kind of want to hear from you, but it doesn't mean we don't want to hear his perspective on hip hop as a whole. So I decided to press play on the clip. Well, when I pressed play on the clip, I realized that I was judging by the headline because I kind of agree with him. Let me explain. Full disclosure, I am from Brooklyn, New York. Biggie and Jay-Z are from Brooklyn. Melly Mel used to live 2 blocks down from me. I would see him every day. Yes, he didn't have a shirt on. I'm not joking. But nevertheless, if you've seen Melly Mel, you know why I'm saying that. Seen him at the Grammy. I think he had his shirt off at the Grammys. Dude been swole forever. But I guess I'm supposed to say pause there. Come on, man. The pause, okay? Pause. But I will say this. Okay, well, full disclosure also, Biggie is my favorite rapper of all time. Yeah, there's a little Brooklyn bias there, but I think his music, his personality more aligned with my way of thinking. And that's like with any of your rappers who are the favorite rappers. Whether you could rap yourself or you envision yourself rapping, you would be that artist, whoever you like. I say Melly Mel has a point because he went on to explain that the words rapper and greatest kind of mean different things to different people, right? The definitions are the definitions, but people like to say rapper and mean MC. Well, MC and rapper can be 2 very different things, right? What's the difference? Well, a MC is a master of ceremonies, right? He can literally do it all. Not only can he rhyme, but he can control the crowd. Stage presence, whatever it may be, right? A rapper is for most people are recording artists. Now, recording artists could be one and the same, but rappers are different. Their concentration is the music they make, the songs, right? How good are they at doing that? Some people are really good at being on the stage, but can't make a great song to save their life. Some dudes are bar kings, can freestyle to death, but can't make a great song to save their life. He's just saying that when it comes to being a rapper, Tupac is better because he has more variety in his songwriting. He's not lying, because for the longest time, there was a part of me as a huge Biggie fan, and he kind of started to do it a little bit with Life After Death, that wanted him to switch up his subject matter, not abandon what he's talked about for years or the years he was in the game. But to me, he's still a human being who had to have had other interests beyond getting rich and being an ex-drug dealer and blah, blah, blah. Same thing with Jay-Z. Jay-Z, honestly, to me, didn't truly open up as an artist until 444, right? That was the most Jay-Z personal experience type album you ever got. Sure, he's talked about personal situations here and there, but the subject matter of the majority of the music evolved around the same thing. Whereas with Tupac, you could point to several Tupac songs that speak to different things: police brutality, injustice, supporting Black women, teenage pregnancy. Then you can go to the gangster raps. You can go to his relationship with a friend that's leaving the street life. Like Tupac, when we talking about variety, Tupac is unmatched when you put him against Biggie and Jay-Z. That's all Melly Mel was really referring to. And that's how he saw greatest rapper. To him, Tupac needs to be moved up when you talk about greatest rappers, because one thing that Melly Mel did acknowledge that you're probably thinking to yourself, well, Biggie and Jay-Z they're better MCs than Tupac. They are. But not everything is strictly about bars and wordplay, right? Greatest rapper to Melly Mel meant variety in your content is a major part of it. This is the man who notoriously is, even though there was other people on the song, but when you think of a song like The Message, a song that said something different in hip hop at the time, of course he would think that way, because parties were party records, especially back then, right? Moving the crowd, cold rocking the crowd, all that was a part of hip hop back in his day. But he had a message, right? And that gave variety, that brought variety into lyrics in hip hop. So of course he would think in that way. Tupac knew it, Jay-Z knew it, and Biggie knew it also. There was a certain level as a recording artist, as a rapper, that at some point, like Jay-Z did, but at some point Biggie was going to have to get to that point as well, because it becomes stale for you as an artist to constantly make an album about the same things, especially when your life has changed, right? More Money, More Problems. That could have been a very different record, right? When you think about the concept, because it makes sense. But Biggie at that point in his career hadn't dedicated bars to, okay, well, tell us about that, Now let me not say dedicate bars, like a full song to that concept, right? He'll tell you More Money, More Problems and what's wrong and why. And before you even start, Suicidal Thoughts is one of those records, but it's only one. So when you're looking at a body of work and you're saying to yourself, like, well, Biggie got Suicidal Thoughts, he got I Miss You and all that, or Missing You, Everyday Struggle, yes, but they tend to revolve around some of the same themes, as opposed to Tupac, who kind of talked about so many different things, including money at some point, and he didn't even do that much. So Melly Mel does have a point when you're talking about greatest rapper of all time. I think sometimes when we see these lists, again, the criteria is important. If you're talking about greatest MCs of all time, Tupac gets knocked down on that list because he was good, but there's so many people who are technically better. Jay-Z and Biggie being two of them, right? But when you talk about greatest rapper, now you're looking at the totality of their work, right? And not just the impact. They're all big stars, but Tupac connects with more individuals because of the variety of his content. There you have it. Biggie's still my favorite. Still love Jay-Z. Still love Tupac. For me, you could take them and mix them all up in different orders. I wouldn't care. It's all great hip hop music. It all goes into the pot of what's dope about hip hop 50 years later. Chuck D is launching a new social media app to combat online negativity. Let's look. Shout out to hiphopdx.com. Mackenzie Cummins Grady for the story. You could read the whole story on their page, hiphopdx.com. Let's see. Chuck D has announced that he's launching a new culture media app, and its aim is to combat the toxicity that has plagued other social media platforms. The app, which the Public Enemy legend announced while a guest on Chris Cuomo's new show. I'm not going to name it because so what? Uh, the app is called Bring the Noise and will go live on March 15th. Chuck, holla at me, fam. You know, whatever way I can help out. I'm saying. I think this is a dope idea. Well, let's get a quick quote from Chuck D. Well, it's a culture media app, and I think culture media is greater than social media. Social media, you got everybody in the sandbox, not saying people can't say or do whatever. One thing that culture media does is the music, the craft, the art, and it's not uninviting to 35 and under if you want to just give it a name or a figure or a number or whatever, but it engages a conversation in a room that just keeps it to the art and culture, and that's what it is. So y'all already know I'm on every platform, and you better believe I'm going to be on Chuck D's platform. I have a lot of art and a lot of culture to offer, as you saw at the beginning of this video, if you're watching the video. What do I think about it in comparison? Do I think people are going to run over to this new Bring the Noise app because it's Chuck D and it says, you know, it's about culture media and it's getting away from negativity? I think it'll be difficult to do that. For one, regardless of what's happened with Twitter, people are still on it, right? Another thing is people like what they like. They are where they are, right? They could tell you that China's taking all your data on TikTok. It hasn't stopped people from using it, right? They could tell you Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all these sites are doing things with your data. People will still use it. But people in a lot of ways are comfortable with what they have and are not willing to leave something they've invested so much time in, especially when they have followers and, you know, people that like, you need your whole group of your whole network of social media followers to come with you over there in order for you to feel like it's cool to be over here. If you're the only one over there, or you're 1, 2, 3 folks over there and y'all trying to make it feel like Twitter or make it feel like Instagram, it's just not. The other thing is the technology, you know. Will it be safe? Will my privacy be taken by Chuck D instead of the government? I don't think so. Will the app work? What features will it have? There's so many different things, so many variables that for any new social media app that have to come into play, because people like playing online. And unfortunately, negativity kind of runs everything from YouTube views. Like I watched a dude who has a channel. I don't even know this guy's name. I just stumbled upon it on YouTube, where he's watching like security footage and reacting to it. And when I tell you this boy got a couple of thousands of viewers and people donating because they like his reaction to the videos. Like I could believe what I was watching, but I still couldn't believe what I was watching. And the majority of it was kind of negative, right? It was people shooting at each other in the hood. Some people got hit, right? Nothing graphic because he don't want to get demonetized. But nevertheless, it's content and people were, you know, tuning in droves. And again, there's going to be negativity of some sort on this app. It's all about how it's policed, for lack of a better word. You need that. I mean, that was one of the issues with Twitter before Elon Musk took it over. It was, you know, controlling people jumping on a celebrity or a person and basically cyberbullying them to the point where they just delete their account. It's happened so many different times. So I get it. There are other apps that are not as popular that I found to be mostly peaceful, at least as far as what I can see, like this app called Vero, Vero, right? A couple celebrities use that, right? It's a little bit of Instagram, it's a little bit of Twitter. In some ways, I think it's a little bit of TikTok too. But again, this sounds like a very good idea. I'm down to check it out. I'm down to be available on this app by Chuck D called Bring the Noise. But we're just gonna have to see what it really is once it's up and running and how people use it, because you can designate this app to be this thing. And it's just like a club back in the days. You visit the club first time, you're like, yo, this club looked nice. Cover charge wasn't crazy. Drinks were good. Everybody in there was peaceful, having fun, dancing. And then the locals find out. And when the locals find out, you realize, oh, the bathroom's closed now. Oh, the drinks are trash. They don't even give you glasses anymore. 6 fights broke out. There's 100 dudes and 2 girls in the club. And then the club shuts down. Hopefully that is not what we have to deal with Chuck D's app. Hopefully it's just a nice community to go over and share your art and culture with other like-minded folks. And lastly, did Ludacris's New York ties lead to him being unrecognized, bars, by Atlanta? This is another Big Gib special on Art of Dialogue. He's already said a whole bunch of things, some of which I've just ignored. But this was interesting because I think, like Melly Mel, he has a point. Let's just get a quick quote from him. Luda, one of the best rappers that came out of Atlanta, period. One of the greatest actors came out of Atlanta. He's good. He's good. I ain't gonna front. His numbers are crazy. At least 15 to 20 million sold. Franchise Fast and Furious. Resume just impeccable. But I feel that when you go to New York and you try to be New York friend, you get unrecognized. Now, when you say F that, I don't need your friendship, respect me, then they have to check how they deal with you. So I'm not going to read anymore. You can check it. You can check out the interview on Art of Dialogue. You can check out the post on different sites that posted it. I'll say this. I think Big Gib has a point, because there's a certain local sound, so to speak, for each region. And that's not only in the beats you choose in most cases, but also in how you rap. And Ludacris, like a game, right, in Cali, they adopt more of an East Coast mentality when it comes to rapping. Like they are into bars. They're spitters, right? Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with being from somewhere else, and that's the kind of rap you choose. But it's difficult to be accepted locally when maybe the predominant sound is nothing like what Ludacris creates, right? And not that he hasn't, collaborated with folks and rappers and people from Atlanta, but he's like, I didn't even know he was from Atlanta, to be honest. Initially, I knew he wasn't from New York, but I didn't know where he was from. And he, he's rapped it, but he was so different from what you got from Outkast and Goody Mob. There was a more of a Southern influence when you heard their music versus when you heard Ludacris's music. Ludacris's music ain't even really, or isn't really so boom bap heavy. It sounds like New York, but in a lot of ways, his style of rhyming and who he connected with New York aligned him more with, New York, Philly cats or whatever, recognizing him because he's a spitter. It's what we like, so that's what he is. Whereas down south, they might want you to fall back a little bit on all them bars, and get some beats they could ride to. So I get it. It's terrible because it's an issue, right? We're at a point in time in hip hop where even with New York, we have to accept that everybody from everywhere is not only influenced by their city. It's just, that's not the case. Jay Electronica, you couldn't have told me he was from New Orleans until he said it, right? Because everything about him was New York type rap, Philly, like up top. It was that kind of rap. So you couldn't have told me he was from somewhere else, right? Just like with somebody like Premier. Premier is probably like the gold standard for traditional boom bap hip hop in New York City, and he is from Texas, right? And you listen to other cats from Texas, some of them are very different. Some of them are like Ghetto Boys and Scarface, and some of them are like New York rappers. So every region has people who are influenced by what they were influenced by, and they may love the local sound, and they may incorporate it. They may incorporate where they came from within their music. But at the end of the day, they're influenced by who they're influenced by, and there's a larger audience of hip hop fans out there. Unfortunately for Outkast and Goodie Mob, their style of music was more appealing to everybody. And before you bring up the Source Awards, keep telling y'all, a lot of the Source Awards things, even the West Side Connection things, these dudes from everywhere that were talking about New York were not talking about New York fans as much as they were talking about New York media. It was bias. It just was. And it didn't stop me from liking Outkast or Goodie Mob. But in a lot of ways, it cheated some of us in the New York City area from knowing that this is dope and it doesn't sound like boom bap, right? It just did. But those times have changed. They have. And I feel like with Atlanta, not trying to tell y'all what to do, it should be the same thing, right? Ludacris, from y'all parts. Big Gib ran down the accolades. It may not be your cup of tea to hear somebody who raps in that way, but you can't really leave him out of the Atlanta discussion because he's one of the biggest artists, one of the biggest celebrities to ever come out of that town. So when it comes to hip hop and Atlanta hip hop specifically, Ludacris needs to be right up top with everybody else because he never compromised his lyrical integrity, his artistry to sound like he was from New York. He was just influenced by hip hop, and hip hop was born in New York. And he found a way to blend his pride being from Atlanta with what he was most interested in about hip hop, which is bars and lyrical technique. So it's just a variety. You from Atlanta, you only listen to Atlanta artists. Okay, well, when you want to hear bars, you listen to Ludacris and T.I. When you want to hear something else, you may listen to Jeezy, you may listen to Outkast, you may listen to Future. You know what I'm saying? Migos, whatever. But he belongs in that conversation as far as I'm concerned. That's going to do it for me. You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Vegas World INC. And if you watch the video version, if you subscribe to the podcast on the audio side, you've already heard my announcement for a brand new podcast entitled My Little Podcast. This is very different from anything I've ever done. This is not hip hop. This is not boxing. This is about creatives being creative, highlighting those who create art, whether it's music, film, literature, whatever it may be, highlighting them and telling their story and hopefully inspiring you to do something great. That's going to do it for me. And please remember, I am not a critic. I'm a fan. Peace.